Welcome back to another episode of Picking Up the Pixels RPG Love. I'm your host, Boston, and joining me as always is Musum.
Hello.
Patreon.com/E1M1. The ones are numbers. If you want to support this show and all the other E1M1 shows, like TVGP and Dynamic Soundtrack, the show that I keep forgetting the name of because I haven't been doing it for a while, sorry. You can support all of those over there. The $5 a month tier is the recommended one. That gets you everything, including uncensored behind the scenes and early access. Patreon.com/E1M1. Musum, what have you been playing this past month?
So first off, I want to start by plugging our game club game this month,
Yes.
Vampire Coteries of New York.
Mm-hmm.
I won't talk about it long, but I will say I did play through it, and while I like it a lot, I think it's going to be very divisive.
Right.
And I feel like everyone's gonna have mixed feelings, but it doesn't cost much. I think it's just like $10 or $15. So
Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, you guys should go get it and play it and listen to Game Club when we do it.
It's a cool visual novel, like Vampire the Masquerade visual novel thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. So continuing on, I played some more Skyrim because I don't like crafting games, but for some reason all I do is do smithing in Skyrim. So I can now, I think I just got the ability to start forging Daedric equipment.
Okay.
And I forgot that you had to have a Daedric soul to do that, I think. Or maybe you just need a soul. The point being is I need to start using the soul gem, like absorbing souls from enemies I kill mechanic.
Right. I totally forgot about that.
Yeah. I've
been thinking fondly about. I've been replaying some games that I'll talk about here in a little bit. But I've sort of been thinking fondly about Skyrim, largely because I don't remember any of it. So like you talking about the soul gem thing, I'm like, oh my god, yeah, that's right. I don't remember any of that. So I don't have the time to do it right now. I almost feel like if I'm going to play Skyrim, I should probably stream it. But like, it's one of those games I can sort of fondly look at and be like, yeah, all right, I don't remember any of that. I could go for some Skyrim, sure.
It's I don't know. Every time I play it, like I'm like, oh right, I remember this part. Like I feel like 60% of the game memorized.
Right.
And the other 40%, like I'm like you, were just like a black void. I'm like, oh crap. I should have been doing that this whole time.
Right. Oh man.
Start putting points into enchantment to get this soul trap stuff going. And
that's right.
I figured out how to level up the werewolf.
Okay.
You have to eat people.
Well, I guess that makes sense. Sure.
And you have to be in werewolf form. You eat people. That gets you werewolf experience. And then while you're in werewolf form, you go to your skill tree, and it's your special werewolf skill tree.
Gotcha.
I feel like that tree is not going to carry me through the whole game in terms of werewolf form being powerful, but you know, I've never done it, so I'm doing it.
Yeah. And you never know. It could be one of those things where you get like one specific skill upgrade, and it's like, great, I just broke the game. This is incredible.
Yeah. The other thing I really like is I'm like level 30-ish, I think.
Mm-hmm.
I have not been to Riften or Winterhold yet. Like,
wow, okay.
Can't even fast travel, and I enjoy that. Like, at some point, I'm just gonna have to walk over to that corner of the map to find the thing. But I don't know. I'm kind of on the downslope on Skyrim, so that game may get shelved for a little bit.
Yeah.
Let's see. So I also picked up Diablo 2, and I've been playing that. I have, I've been trying to go over this in my mind. Like, how can I make everyone the least angry by talking about Diablo?
I feel like with Diablo 1 and 3, nobody really cares that much. Diablo 2, I feel like that's the one where no matter what your opinion is, somebody's gonna like bust into your house sweaty and just be like, "You're wrong." It's just like, where the hell did you come from?
I think this is gonna be a full just defend the whole spectrum though. Like, like the conclusion. So I played, like, I'm in the second area in Diablo 2, which is the desert whatever area, and
Sure.
I rolled up a druid. I'm like, I've never made a druid that turns into a werebear, so I'm gonna do that.
Okay.
The druid skill tree kind of works like a Diablo 3 skill tree in a way. Like, whereas Diablo 3 gives you a bunch of skills, and then it's mostly like, you can use this one, but you can't use this one anymore type
Yeah,
of
you like
dynamic.
mix and match. Yeah.
And that is like how the summons for the druid work. Like, you
Oh,
have
okay.
you have a wolf, you have a dire wolf, and you have a bear. So if you like, originally I had something like 6 points in wolves, so I could have those out. But when I summoned a dire wolf, all of them disappeared. Um,
Oh, interesting. Okay. I think World
the
of Warcraft kind of works like that, where it's like you have these specific skills in this form, and you can't really access the other form skills because you haven't transformed like that.
Yeah, and I'm the type where I want like 100 things on the screen at once. Like,
Yeah. Yep.
um, so that was kind of disappointing to find. But I went back to the first village where I think her name's Akasha. She gives you one skill reset. So
Oh, nice.
I did that. There doesn't seem to be another one in the game that I've found so far.
Hmm.
Which means I'm only going to put 1 point into dire wolves and wait till I get the freaking bear, and then I'll just shove points into that. But
Sure.
that's a big if too, because I don't know that I'm going to continue playing this, because I've kind of come to the conclusion that I just don't like Diablo games anymore.
Right.
Um, I spent a ton of time with Diablo 2 back in the day. I've had a lot of really good couch co-op sessions with Diablo 3.
Hmm.
They are not mentally engaging enough for me. Like, a
Oh,
lot of
sure.
the things I like about Diablo are the skill tree, but the things Diablo likes about Diablo are okay, so Diablo 2, your main mechanic is you play about 10 or 15 minutes, your inventory gets full, you cast town portal,
Right.
you go back to
Right.
town, you sell it off, you rinse and repeat. And me saying 10, 15 minutes is probably generous. It's probably about every 5 minutes, truthfully.
Hmm.
It's pretty quick, and it's just really boring. Like,
Yeah.
you're rarely actually in danger. So like, I like the class builds a lot,
Hmm.
and I feel like, well, they do some interesting things in 3 and whatnot. I just don't know that these games are for me anymore,
Well,
unfortunately.
and if you like skill trees, 3 is probably not the one for you because
Yeah.
that focuses so much less on skills and so much more on like your build and like your class loadout. Have you? I feel like I'm gonna open Pandora's box here. Have you played Path of Exile?
I have not. That skill tree looks a little scary.
Yeah, I feel like if you like skill trees, Path of Exile has like the largest one in human
Yeah.
history. I get the impression every time I look at Path of Exile, and I'm like, all right, I'm gonna start Path of Exile. I'm gonna look at a guide, and most guides are like, all right, starting on the skill tree, you want to start here. Like this is the good foundation, and then you'll have a good idea of where to branch off from there once you sort of figure out what class you want to play, what build you want to do, and stuff like that. I never make it to the point where I get deep enough in.
I'd never have given that game a try, and I really do like skill trees. Like,
Hmm.
and the size of that one is intimidating to say the
It
least.
is, yeah.
So maybe I do need to, like, because okay, so Grim Dawn 2, for instance, like that
Yeah.
one I feel like is the best of both worlds, where you pick a class, you have a definitive skill tree, and then you get a
Hmm.
second class. So you basically have two Diablo 2-esque skill trees that you're kind of traversing. And then on top of
Right.
that, you have a weird star chart thing that gives you even more power. So like, you get a good mix of customization, but it's not as overwhelming as Path of Exile looks.
Right. For anyone listening that hasn't seen Path of Exile, their skill tree, it looks like the sphere grid from Final Fantasy X with like over 1,000 nodes on it. And I'm genuinely not exaggerating. It's one of those things where you like zoom out and zoom out and zoom out, and it's still zooming out. Like it's my understanding is once you get kind of those foundational skills, there are very clear branches where, like, oh, I want to play a summoner, I'm going to start branching off this direction. Oh, I want to play a fighter, I'm going to branch off this direction. It's not like, well, go fill all of them. But I'm sure somebody has, but it seems like that's not necessarily the point, which is good, but it's still very intimidating.
Yeah, like in the Diablo 2 remake, I think one of the things that would have helped it is if we just had infinite skill resets. I know all the classes don't work like the Druid. You know, the Druid was an expansion class for Lord of Destruction back in the day.
Right.
So I imagine there was just like you can see some of that Diablo 3 thought forming in it, but they didn't have the just select which ones you want. You know, you're in Diablo 2. You're stuck with the skills you chose for the most part.
And it's also one of those frustrating things too, where it's like, look, you're remaking a game that's over 20 years old. Who cares if you reset your skill tree 50 times in the first zone? Like, it hurts nobody.
Yeah. God, I didn't realize this. I was reading a bullet point thing on it, and you can literally, like, if you have an online character with Diablo 2 on Battle.net, you can literally use that character file in this new version.
Oh, wow. From, like, the original Diablo 2 that they've kind of carried over? Wow, that's crazy. That's cool.
And, you know, actually, that's another complaint I should talk about. Like, you know, it's a complaint, but maybe it's something that can teach the new generation about what Battle.net was like 15 years ago. When you start a character, you're first greeted with, do you want to make an online character or an offline character?
Right.
The offline character, you can't multiplayer at all.
Oh, okay. Interesting.
So you have to do an online one if you ever hope to play with your friends.
Right.
And then you click like the first couple nights, like Battle.net chugged. Like you were lucky to get in the game at all.
I heard a lot of cases of like, I just played for an hour and now I log back in and my character's gone. And Blizzard was just like, yeah, we're working on it. It's like, that's okay.
Yeah.
That's intense.
It is concerning. It is, I mean, it sucks too, because like I went on a trip last weekend and I couldn't play my Diablo 2 character because, you know, I'm on a trip. I don't have any internet.
So, sure. Right.
You also have instances because you're on a Switch, or at least I'm playing on Switch. And, you know, that's permanently over Wi-Fi. So you will have instances where your character walks 10 feet and then he walks the same 10 feet again.
Sure. Right.
Because it has that old school lag. It is not I really wish. I realize there are still some psychotic people out there who are playing online original Diablo 2. I realize that's a thing.
Right.
Maybe I shouldn't insult them.
Right.
You know, everyone has their love. I obviously have an issue with playing ancient games that no one else thinks I should play. But so I shouldn't judge. I apologize. But like, I really wish they had just brought this game into the modern era and did a similar, like, you know, multiplayer deal that Diablo 3 did. Like, I love you can make a character and you can decide whether you want it to be I forget what it is. Is it a ranked character or no, it's season characters. But even that, like, you don't have a choice between online and offline. And you don't necessarily have to be on the internet at all times with that character, right?
I don't remember for season. I play Diablo 3 on PS5, so like I'm kind of always online. I feel like the seasonal you might be able to do offline as well, but I don't know if I've tried it. Yeah, I don't know. It's a good question. You might be able to on Switch. I'm not sure.
Yeah, they don't have that division, but I will say Diablo 2, of course, translates well to controller. Works just fine. They didn't do. I haven't played it multiplayer yet, but they have not done player-specific loot.
I saw that because there was like a big interview with either the director or the producer or you know one of the higher ups on the remaster, saying like, we didn't go and do that because if we had to do that, you sort of have to redo and rebalance the entire game. and that was sort of out of the scope. And it's like,
Yeah.
yeah, but then what was the scope? Like controller support and like up-resing it a little bit, because that's fine, but I'm not sure
Yeah.
if that was... I'm not sure that a ton of people were clamoring for Diablo 2 on consoles, especially with Diablo 4 on the horizon.
Yeah. Maybe Diablo 4 will provide me everything that I want out of one of these games. I don't know.
Mm-hmm. I mean,
Um,
Diablo 4 looks like it's radically different from 3. So
hmm,
that's anybody's guess on what that's going to be at the end of the day is anybody's guess, I guess.
cool. Like 3 had so much quality of life to it, and that they
Yeah.
did not apply to this version of 2. So that's
Yeah.
disappointing.
Yeah.
um, Anywho, so I'm on Area 2. I'm probably not going to play it again unless I just get some friends that play it. And
Yeah.
even then, it's going to be, could my time be better spent elsewhere?
Right.
So I also picked up, this will just be kind of a brief mention because I haven't played it a ton. Gibbinator on the TVGP Discord tagged me and told me Hero U was on sale for like $7 and some change on Switch.
Okay.
So I picked that up. This is a game by the Quest for Glory creators.
Oh, okay.
I am probably 20 minutes into this.
Hmm.
I'm a little disappointed in the interface in that you're using the joystick to move a mouse cursor around, and it is straight up an old Sierra game. Like
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to click on the dresser. I'm going to open the dresser. Like one of my options is to jump on the dresser, and then the character will make a pun, and
Right.
like there's some appeal there. I'm worried about my reaction time with moving a cursor around, though. But
Right.
I haven't gotten as far as to getting any fights, but it does seem like a straight up, old school Sierra game.
Yeah, I'm watching the trailer here. Is this Hero U Rogue to Redemption?
Yes.
Yeah, this very much looks like, hey, we made those games before. We're just gonna make a new one, and kind of largely the same, which
Yeah.
isn't a negative. I play a lot of sort of games like that too, but it's very faithful, which is pretty impressive.
Yeah. It's I don't know. I can't decide if I like or hate the main character yet. And I think that's going to be my big determining factor on how far I get in this. But
Right.
I'm definitely going to play it a little bit more. It just needed more of my attention than me watching a TV show and playing it.
Sure.
So it's like I guess I could tell a little bit about the intro story. Like you start out, you're trying out for the Thieves Guild. You're supposed to steal this object from this person's room, and then afterwards you're recruited to this hero academy where they enroll you in a rogue class.
Mm.
Literally rogue class.
Right.
So it's they give you a bunch of choices which kind of determines your opening stats. I'm hoping they don't do the Quest for Glory 5 thing where if like your stats you don't use decrease over time. Because I love Quest for Glory 1 through 4. I have not played much into 5 because it's really intimidating to me that the game has like a depreciation curve.
Yeah, it like min maxes for you.
Yeah. Like
Yeah.
I do not like. But
Yeah.
anyway, I don't know. $7, like I've wasted more money on a bad fast food meal. Like
I was gonna say, like,
yeah. Let's see. So last but not least, not quite an RPG. I feel like we've talked it on here, but maybe we just did a spoiler cast. I don't know what we did. I got the Doki Doki Literature Club for Switch.
oh yeah, what's the new version called? Plus?
I don't remember.
I think it's just DDLC Plus.
It's yes, that sounds exactly right.
Okay.
Because let's say I can look on my Switch right now if it will ever turn on. But I had hoped I would just have beaten it today. This isn't working. I had hoped I would have beaten it today before this podcast because I really wanted to see how the in-game mechanics work on Switch.
Yes.
Unfortunately, I did not. That whole the before the messed up stuff happens part is way longer than I remember it being.
Yeah, because I think they added a bunch of stuff in the game too. So like the that middle part is
Yeah.
allegedly fairly large now.
Yeah, I just got to the first huge shock moment that happens.
Okay.
And I won't. I've already said too much, I realize, so I'll stop there on that. But I will say the version I got for Switch was like $30, and it comes with like a ton. Like it looks like a regular Switch game, and then you open up and there's like 50 things inside there. Like
stuff's just falling out of there.
Yeah, like there's like a business card for a programmer, and I'm not really clear what that's about. Like I don't know if this is literally the developer handing out his resume, or
what is his name? Dean Salvato? Is that guy's name? I think something like that. Yeah, I bought the physical edition, like the collector's edition for PS5. I haven't gotten my copy yet because there's been a bunch of shipping delays and stuff. But I was really tickled at the idea of having a physical version of a PS5 copy of Doki Doki Literature Club. Like that. There are a couple of games I buy physically just because like I like the idea of look at this physical version of this dumb thing I have. Like it's a physical copy of Doki Doki Literature Club. This incredible game that there shouldn't be on a disc. I don't know why this happened. This is great.
Did not pay for it the first time we played because it was free.
Right? Yeah. That's true. That's true. Yeah, I'm doing my part, putting some money in the tip jar.
Yeah. It seems like a pretty cool version. Like that first half is still uncomfortable. Like it's still that weird dating sim type thing. You know, I mean, I don't know. It seems like a great version. I'm excited to finish it and report my findings because I'm so curious how they do the ending in the console.
Right.
So that is my list. So Boston.
I've got two games. One is kind of an RPG, but the other one definitely is. I picked up the Castlevania Advance Collection, and I think the further these games go, the more they turn into RPGs. So this is the 3 Game Boy Advance games and Dracula X for some reason. They just like slapped it on there for some reason.
Okay.
So I played and finished Circle of the Moon, which is the first one that came out. I'm sort of going in order. I've played and finished Circle of the Moon. I have long been a defender of Circle of the Moon. I feel like history has not been kind to it because everybody just remembers the launch Game Boy Advance that didn't have a backlit screen, and Circle of the Moon was really dark. So it was really, really tough to play. But it's this really neat game that's kind of straddling the line between pre-Symphony of the Night Castlevania and post-Symphony of the Night Castlevania. So it has the map, and you're doing your normal Metroidvania stuff where you're gathering upgrades and you're exploring and you're kind of making note of dead ends and like, do I get all the way up there? You know, that sort of thing. But it's also really challenging, not impossibly, but it's really challenging to the point where it feels like one of the first couple of Castlevania games, like 1 and 2 and Super NES 1, 4. Really feels like those where it's not mean about its difficulty, but like you really have to be good at it. You really have to spend your time kind of learning all the ins and outs of the system. But then it has this DSS system. You're collecting cards from enemies, which we'll then see a similar system kind of later on in Aria of Sorrow. We're collecting cards, and I think there's like 20 cards, 24 cards. There's 2 rows of cards. There's a top row and a bottom row. Essentially, the mixing and matching you do with cards, you pick one from the top row and you pick one from the bottom row. Depending on the combination, when you hit the L button, or the L button, which is like L1 on PS5, it does some sort of thing. So like either you'll be 25% stronger, or you'll heal while you're standing still, or you'll summon a giant thunderbird, or you'll have stuff spinning around you. That stuff is kind of fun, and I feel like is a large key to succeeding in the game, especially because there aren't a lot of bosses in there, but most of them are really difficult. Especially Dracula is brutally hard. But if you take advantage of the systems in the game, you can kind of not really cheese it, but you can make it a lot easier for you. I spent way more time in that game than I thought. I think I blew through it in about 8 hours, which feels pretty long for a Metroidvania, for just kind of your first playthrough. So then I moved over to Harmony of Dissonance, the second one, and man, Harmony is a really weird game. You still have your whip, but the thing I forgot about, the great thing about all three of these games, I don't remember anything from these. This is very much why I was sort of thinking fondly about Skyrim. It's just like, I'm playing Circle of the Moon for the first time in like 15, 20 years. I don't remember any of this. So Harmony of Dissonance is interesting because you still have the whip. It's not like Aria of Sorrow where you have equipable items, or like equipable weapons. In this one, you're changing the tip of your whip. So like, either if you put the red tip on, now you have fire attacks. If you put the steel tip on, now it does more damage. If you put like the disc on it, it spins in a circle when you hold the attack button down. It has way more armor for you to equip, way more items. Thankfully, it's much more generous about giving you potions and anti-venom and anti-curse and stuff like that. The thing I forgot about this game is, in like my first half an hour playing through the game, you look at the map and it's like, you're 25% of the way through this map. I was like, that's really fast. What the hell? That's crazy. And then you find your first warp room, and you warp. You do that a couple of times. You're like warping all over the castle, and you run into Death. And he said like, hey man, like, are you dumb? Because you haven't figured out you're warping between two different castles. And I'm like, right. That's right. There's two castles that are overlaid on top of each other, and you're switching between two full castles that are the same map, but totally different internals. And as soon as he says that, you get all three maps, Castle A, Castle B, and like the combined map. I was like, right, okay, that's pretty cool. You're doing. I forgot you did some cool stuff. I finished that game with like nearly 200% with the best ending in like 4.5 hours.
Wow.
And this is me again, not remembering anything. Just blew through that game. Way easier than Circle of the Moon. But I remembered more from that game, mostly because like you're switching the tip of your whip around to like break walls or do a whole bunch of other stuff, and I forgot that was one of the things I remembered. I like that game a lot too. I've seen some people saying like, "Oh, Aria of Sorrow is the only one you need to play in this collection." It's like, yes, that's really not the case. All three of these games are good. But I just started Aria of Sorrow this morning, and boy, that's so much more of an RPG than the other two. Because I forgot that the big thing about Aria of Sorrow is you're absorbing like the souls of enemies. And they're like red, yellow, or blue, and you can equip the different souls to do, like the very first one you get, you can throw a spear from one of those spear gargoyle things. one of the really early ones you get is if you hold a button down, you like fall slower. You can kind of glide, so you can get over some chasms and passageways and stuff. I've probably played for like half an hour, but I remember Aria of Sorrow being very, very good, and I'm really excited to dig into that. I think this collection was only like $20, and M2 did the emulation, so it's perfect. They upgraded the sound quality actually, and you can toggle that on and off if you want. So the music sounds way better than it ever has, and they have a pixel perfect video option too. They have before, like the default is like a not 4:3 but not 16:9. It kind of like fills the screen. They have a 16:9 like wide screen stretch version that just looks like a disaster. But thankfully they have a pixel perfect. I'm playing on like a 55-inch TV, which is really weird to be playing these games, but it works really well. Thankfully you can map your controls, because the default control scheme is jump is on X and swing your weapon is on circle, and that is not how that goes. So I switched that to jump on X and swing your whip on square, because that's how those controls should function.
Yes.
But yeah,
America, jump is X.
That's right. Yeah, jump is X, and I want to lay my thumb across both of them, so like the attack has to be on square. Yeah. But yeah, it all three of these. I haven't played Dracula X yet. I'll probably mess around with that a little bit. At the end, Dracula X isn't my favorite, so I don't know if I'll go for the platinum on this.
That one's a hard one to play. Like, yeah. I've tried multiple versions to get into that one, because Symphony of the Night just makes you want to be like, oh, I have to know the events of Dracula X. And
yeah, exactly.
Then you get into Dracula X, or what's the other name? Rondo
of Blood.
That sounds right.
Yeah.
Like, you get into it and it's so ridiculously hard, and it's like the original like tough. Castlevania 1 like mechanics for the most part, like just with a dash, and
it has all those branching paths where it's like fall down the second hole on the third screen of the second level, and that's an alternate path. It's like, oh god, okay.
Yeah, that's how you freaking unlock Symphony of the Night on the PSP version of that game.
That's right. I had to go do that. It was like, I remember that, where it's like get to like level 4 and there's like a record sitting trapped in this area, and it's like, oh god, okay.
Yeah.
Just want to unlock Symphony of the Night, which thankfully the double pack that they have for modern consoles just has both of those unlocked at the very beginning. So
good.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
I remember all those Game Boy and DS Castlevania games being really good.
Yeah, I like the DS ones a lot too. I would really like for them to see. So this is the second collection they've come out with. The previous collection had like the pre-Symphony of the Night and pre-Game Boy Advance ones. So it's like 1, 2, 3, Super. Has all of those. This is the second collection they came out with. I really hope they figure out a way to do the DS ones. Because all of those, nobody played Order of Ecclesia. It's really good. Like, nobody played Portrait of Ruin. It's incredible. I feel like they played the first one, Dawn of Sorrow, where you have to draw the symbol on the screen after you beat the boss or it comes back to life. I feel like people play that and they're like, this sucks. Peace. Which, fair. But I hope they find a way to bring those to consoles, because like I would really love it if, like we've been seeing with the Final Fantasy Pixel remasters, like I'd love for everyone to have like, hey, you wanted to play the Castlevania games? All of them are on all the consoles. Just go crazy. You can scoop them up. Everything's great. But yeah, I'm really looking forward to digging into Aria of Sorrow. It's been nice to go back to these games where I remember that they were good, but I don't remember anything about any of these. I remembered like 1 or 2 secrets. Like there's sort of, it seems like it's an infamous room in Harmony of Dissonance where you're racing a giant pinball as it kind of goes around this huge giant room, and you have to beat it to the end room to kind of get to a secret area. I remembered that, but very, very little else of the game. So I feel like I'll probably remember more of Aria of Sorrow, because that's probably the one I played the most. But after spending about a half an hour, I'm like, nope, I don't remember any of this at all. Oh, the other benefit too, since Circle of the Moon and Aria of Sorrow are so dependent on, beat these enemies to pick up the thing that they drop. The cool thing that M2 does is when you hit an enemy that has like a droppable thing, like let's say it's Aria of Sorrow and they drop a soul, there's a little sliding toast notification that comes out the right hand side of the screen that has the enemy's name and whether or not you have the soul or not. So it's really nice. So it's not like, oh, have I beat these axe knights enough to get their soul? You don't have to dig down in the menu every 2 minutes. It just popped out. You can turn it off too, but it pops out and says like whether or not you have the thing. Same thing with Curse of the Moon, where it'll tell you if you have the card or not. So it's nice. It's a really good collection. 3 really good games for a really good price for all of those. Highly recommended. And my last game here, is Fuga, Melodies of Steel. I have finally finished it and gotten the best ending and platinumed it. My platinum, I had to do 3 playthroughs. It was about halfway through my 3rd playthrough that I got the platinum. I really appreciate when you finish the game the first time, unless you look it up, you're probably going to get the bad ending, just naturally. I finished the game with 10 of 12 children. If you have listened to this show before, you probably have a good idea of why 2 of them weren't there. I don't want to talk about it. The final boss was really good. It was a really nice culmination of not only the story, but kind of all the mechanics in the game. It honestly wasn't a very difficult boss fight, but it had enough stuff for you to juggle between the 3 different types of attacks you can do that it felt like a really solid. It felt like a really solid fight. And the bad ending is like really brutal. I'm not going to spoil it, but like it doesn't pull any punches where it's like, yeah, you got 10 out of 12. That really sucks for the families of the two kids you didn't save. Oh no. But thankfully after the credits roll, the game like pops up some tips at the end where it's like, hey, you can play again. Here's some tips on maybe how to get a much happier ending than the one you got. And New Game Plus on this is really good. It carries over everything. Because one of the biggest questions I had was, one of the trophies is reach level 10, I think that's affection, the relationship level, on 30 pairs of children. I didn't come anywhere close to that on my first playthrough. I'm like, how am I even... I'm juggling so many things. How am I even supposed to do this? Well, New Game Plus. New Game Plus carries over literally everything. All of your relationships, all of your items, everything you've upgraded in the tank, including all of your weapons and your armor. So, like, your second playthrough, you're one-shotting almost all of these bosses. Like, you're going through and you're attacking, like, 6 enemies on screen at once, shooting them once, and all of them are dying. It's like, yes, this is incredible. So as a result, you're really focusing on upgrading, crafting, relationships, that sort of stuff. And as a result, it's much easier to get the true ending, which I won't spoil the mechanics for. But the true ending is really good. And at the very end, there's like a post-credit sequence that's like a little wink and a nod for some other stuff, which is a nice touch.
So what I just heard is my first playthrough. I should be a monster through the whole
I
thing.
I don't know, man. Like shooting one of those kids out of the cannon. Like the game at the very beginning. Thankfully, anytime you play through, so like you can play through New Game Plus as many times as you want, and you keep carrying over all of your stuff. So like you just get stronger and stronger and stronger every playthrough. Um, Thankfully, after your first playthrough, it skips the entire intro section, so you're like cut out an entire hour of where like you have to load a kid into the soul cannon and shoot it, because you have to do that the very first time, and then the game rewinds to say like, this is a real decision you are making, and the kids don't come back. Like this is a choice you have to make, um, and man, like even during that tutorial thing where I'm just like, I don't want to do this. Oh god, this is real bad. Thankfully they rewind it and it was just like, oh thank god. Okay, I'm never doing that again. Oh, that was the worst. Um, but yeah, it Fuga is really really good. I spent a lot of time with it to get that platinum, and I wasn't really sick of it by the end. Like I was still having a bunch of fun. Um, it's just really great. I can't recommend it enough. It's $40, $60 for the deluxe edition, where you get like the soundtrack and you get like summer outfits for all the kids, and you also get a dummy soul, which is you can load that into the soul cannon instead of a kid. You can only do that once. So like if you're in real dire straits, I guess you can use that. But Fuga is just it's really good, and I know it's one of those games that people will probably look at and be like, oh yeah, it's that furry tank game. I'm not gonna play that. And it's like, I mean, it is that furry tank game where you load kids into a cannon and shoot their soul at the enemies. But like, it really is. It really is a charming, fantastic, cool strategy RPG thing that that I think more people should try. And it came out to everything, and apparently the Switch version runs really well. So go play Fuga. It's great. 2 thumbs up. Let's do our releases for October 2021 here. Disco Elysium, the final cut, comes out Xbox One, Series X, and Switch on the 12th. That's been out on PS4 and PS5 for a little bit here, so this is just kind of the exclusivity window is over, and they're carrying that right over. Monster Crown comes out for PS4, Xbox One, Switch, and PC on the 12th. This is a Pokemon clone, a Poke clone. This is very much a Pokemon game, much more so than something like Temtem was, or is. People are probably still playing that. This is very much like wander around the town and do 2D monster battles and stuff like that. This looks pretty good. I get the impression has been in early access for a while, so you can probably find some pretty solid impressions on that. But that looks pretty neat. All right, let's talk about this next game. A game that's probably only for me. It's called Dungeon Encounters. It's coming out for PS4, Switch, and PC on the 14th. Square Enix is letting the guy that made the active time battle system for Final Fantasy IV and the guy who worked on Final Fantasy Tactics Advance 2 and Final Fantasy 12 Zodiac Job Edition make a budget dungeon crawling kind of adventure game. To be blunt, it's not a showy game. It looks very simple, and it looks like it is largely mechanics driven, probably very little story. But what they have there, I think, looks pretty cool. And I will probably not be able to convince anyone else to play this, and that's okay.
It may have a budget price that could get you some leeway there. Like I've been
Yeah,
watching this gameplay thing, and yeah, you're like on a game board.
Yeah, it
Like,
looks like someone has made it out of like graph paper. Like it's a very, and then when you get into a battle, it's just character portraits with all of their details on like these little cards. Like it's a very kind of simple, straightforward, mechanics focused game. They haven't put it up for pre-order on anything I can find, so I'm hoping it will have a budget price. Um, but I'm gonna give that a shot because I feel like when Square Enix puts out games like this, I usually click with them. Like they put out that Match 3 game on the 360 with PopCap. That was actually a really good Match 3 game. It was like a Match 3 RPG. That was really great. I Every time I see a game like this, it's like I should probably spend like the 10, $15 and give it a shot because it could be something really cool. On the other end of the spectrum, Marvel's Guardians of the Galaxy comes out on PS4, PS5, Xbox One, Series X, Switch, and PC on the 26th. I'm going to assume this is some sort of RPG with probably leveling up, if not gear or something. I feel like every time they show this off, they are, for fairly obvious reasons, showing off the humor more than anything else. But it looks okay. It's getting pretty good previews.
I'm excited that Cosmo's in it, and I'm
Mhm.
excited that the trailers seem to be excited that Cosmo is in it.
Right,
Um,
right. They just put out a trailer for just that dog, where it's like we got the dog. Here's some dog cutscenes. It's like okay,
it's
I appreciate that.
as a fan of the comics,
Right.
who I don't know, I'm hipster Guardians fan. Like I like the movies. I have issues with the movies because
Sure.
I like
Yeah.
the comics too much.
Yeah.
But
The,
Cosmo, I've been frothing at the mouth for. I'm like, add the Russian psychic dog. Come on.
right. I think the thing that I don't know a ton about Guardians of the Galaxy in general, but this game does seem like it leans a lot closer to the comics rather than the movies, which I think is pretty appealing. Square's been pushing it real hard though, so whew,
Yeah.
hopefully
I'll
it does pretty well.
I I have some friends who are excited to play it, and if they tell me it's wonderful and great, then maybe I'll play it sooner than later. But in my mind, this is a January, February game for me if I play it.
Yeah,
So,
like once the Christmas season is over and the we start hitting 2022, everything is coming out February 20th. Like that week has
oh,
like
geez, that's a good
everything
point.
coming out. So maybe like April.
Yeah, yeah, I forgot
Yeah.
about that. Horizon Forbidden West, and I forget
Destiny
what else is
2,
in
Witch
February.
Queen comes out that same week. And I
Mhm.
feel like there's like two or three more things that are like, yeah, we're coming on the 20th, the 21st, or the 22nd. It's like, oh God, okay. Yeesh.
Well, and
So
if SMT5 addicts me in November, like that game could easily
oh my
span like a half year of play. I
I
bet.
totally forgot. Metroid Dread just came out this week, and I like
Yeah,
it just suddenly came out, and I'm just like, oh, I should probably buy that. And I feel like over my shoulder is SMT5 just being like, keep your
yeah,
Switch free. You're gonna need to play me. It's like, oh God, okay,
yeah,
jeez.
yeah.
Um, I'm not entirely sure that this is an RPG. It's a monumental release, so I'm gonna talk about it anyway. Super Robot Wars 30 comes out on the PC on the 27th. Um, I don't know what Dark Magic, the 50 different companies that are involved in this, had to do to get this to come out in the West. It's incredible that it's coming out at all in any form or fashion over here other than a fan translation. So, again, I know it'll be a strategy game. No idea if it's going to be RPG. It's just an incredible thing that is coming out. So, kudos to the 2 million employees across all these companies that made this happen. And last but certainly not least, Voice of Cards: The Isle Dragon Roars for PS4, Switch, and PC comes out on the 28th. If you haven't heard about this, this is Yoko Taro, the guy who made the Nier games, is making a story-based RPG card game thing. If card game turned you off, try not to let it, because it's not really a card game. It's just that's kind of the narrative conceit that the game is using. Like every time a character pops up on screen, a card slides over, and the thing they say is another card that slides over. There's a demo of it available now. Looks really cool. I think this is a pretty neat looking thing. I will try a lot of Yoko Taro games because they're always unique in a way that I find fascinating. I was gonna say is even if they don't work, maybe especially if they don't work. I kind of like when a game director gets to just throw stuff at the wall and see if it actually works or not.
This thing looks like a trip, like the dungeons are made out of cards.
Yeah, it's been really funny because Moon and I, for We Were Like It right now, are playing Hand of Fate 2. It's a sequel to the first Hand of Fate game, which is a game that I genuinely love. And in Hand of Fate, the dealer who you're playing against generates the dungeon out of cards. So you're navigating this path of cards that are laid down on the tabletop. And as soon as Voice of Cards trailer came out, I was just like, "Ooh, it's like Hand of Fate. Ooh, more people are doing it. Yes." So it's been real exciting, kind of seeing like Hand of Fate 2 is also very good, and it's interesting to see more developers sort of picking up on this because I really like that as like a gameplay kind of design thing where it's like, all right, here's your dungeon. It's just a bunch of cards put on a table in a dungeon formation that are face down. I think that's a really cool thing. Cards are cool. Video games are cool. I'm gonna have a hot take. Oh man. All right, well, that's our episode. We don't really have any news stories. A lot of it are, hey, the games that got announced are coming out this month. So nothing super crazy. If you'd like to visit us, you can do so at pickingupthepixels.com. Everywhere to find and follow us is on the right-hand side of the page, including the Discord server that Musa mentioned earlier. We have a small but very friendly, very passionate community over there. Come join in. Come hang out with us. Musim and I are on there all the time. I'm a stay-at-home dad, and I got my phone glued to my hands all the time. So if you want to chat with us, we're over there. Musim, where can we find you online?
So you can. So right now I'm going to plug my band website first,
yes,
which
please.
is axis-band.com. That's AXIS. We just released an EP that I have 3 remixes on, and in November we're going to release some all new music. So if you're in the mood for some hard kicking industrial, it's November 23rd is the date.
Yeah, the Axis EP is very good. 2 thumbs up.
Oh, right, and we have a cover of Where's My Mind on it, which is maybe not hard hitting industrial, but I feel like we did a good job on that cover.
Yeah.
Granted, that job was done 10 years ago, and we just kind of shined it up for this release.
Yeah,
but
pulled
it actually
from the
got
archives.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then check out the Nexus for all my other music stuff at whatever my website is.
jbaudio.net.
Thank you.
There you go.
Man, my brain.
Yeah, it's all right. And you can find all my shows e1m1.com. The ones are numbers. And don't forget to go check out the Patreon. Any of your hard-earned dollars really helps. We have a $1 tier. Literally every dollar helps. All the paying for the hosting and the software comes out of my pocket. So, anything to ease that is great. If you can't support us financially, totally understand. Times are tight. If you can share this show with your friends, share it on social media, rate it 5 stars on wherever you listen to this. All of that stuff super helps, and we genuinely appreciate it. And our adventure continues next month. Bye.
Bye.
All right. And thanks everyone for watching the video version. Bye.